Hello. So in this video we're going to be talking about Kristin Chang's poetry collection, Past Lives, Future Bodies. And I think this is a really great title for this collection because Chang's poetry is both continually looking back to her ancestors, not like distant ancestors, but like I'd guess at least 85% of the poems, 90% of the poems in here deal with her relationship with her mother in one way or another, or with the speaker's relationship to her mother in one way or another. There's also a lot of poems where grandparents are engaged with, or are characters. So there's some poems about the dad, but the speaker's dad seems to be less central. The main relationship seemed to be with the mother and the grandparents, especially the grandfather. So there's that element of like looking back, and then the other sort of looking backwards component of this is the speaker's difficulty connecting with her Chinese heritage. And there's a number of poems that take place in China. There's a number of poems that recount things in China, or I think more accurately in Taiwan. But these are always, for the speaker, experienced sort of at a remove, at a distance. Even when the speaker seems to be in China, there's still a sort of disconnect. But the other element, so that's the past lives element of the title. There's also the future bodies element of the title, which may be present in future bodies, because Chang's poetry is incredibly visceral, and often sort of dissects the body, looks at pieces, disembodied sort of pieces of the speaker's body or of other people's bodies. Especially a fascination with the mouth, with voice, with the throat to a lesser extent. But this fascination with the mouth and the recurrence of mouth imagery, whether that's speaking, whether that's eating, whether that's the mouth filling with blood, whether that's teeth rotting, teeth being played with like dice, whatever it is. This like continual imagery of the mouth goes along with another theme throughout Chang's collection, which is the challenge of language, especially the sort of gap between the speaker's English monolingualism, only speaking English, and the mother's multilingualism, speaking at least English, Chinese, a dialect of Chinese. And then it's, in one poem, I think the speaker mentions that the mother speaks 3 languages, or that English is her 3rd language. So there's that sort of gap, that sort of distance as well. But the imagery of mouths, continual interactions through the mouth, and the mouth engaging with the world outside, I think fits really well with this theme of the difficulty of language. And so one of the other things that I think is important in poems in this collection is that the visceral body experience of the speaker is almost always disjointed. It's almost always a piece of the body. So there's some references to the body as such, but it's often things like the mouth, the ribs, the breasts, the back, whatever it is. It's just a bit of the body. And I think that's actually really significant because in this way, the visceral imagery that's so fascinating, so interesting in Chang's poetry connects us thematically with that idea of the separation, the gap between experience, the speaker's mother and the speaker's experiences, the speaker's grandparents' experiences, and the speaker's experiences. That sort of distance, that disconnectedness, is thematically replicated by the division of the body. So I want to read you just one of these poems that I think is really good and really characteristic of the style that this collection has. Now there is one name in here that's rendered in Chinese symbols of some dialect. I don't read any Chinese languages, so when I get to that I am just going to say Chinese characters, which is very oddly going to break up the rhythm of the poem, and I apologize in advance for that. But again, I think this is a really interesting poem from early in the collection. It's called The Chinese Sappho. To translate my mother, I swab her mouth with a sword. I've never understood her grief as grammar. She wants the plural of violet to be violence, the plural of woman to be omen. I knew the definition of dam before dike. I've never read The Price of Salt, and blue is the warmest color. It's so white I wrote it, this poem. Yes, I will always want my mother more than a lover, but I still dream of your breasts floating over my head like furrowed moons. I mumble your name with a blood-bent tongue. Daylight defaces me, shreds the eye. I lose more and more face every time a white woman compliments my eyes. I want to pluck them out, soft boil them in their sockets and eat away the whites. A tragedy that's Greek to you is Chinese to me. Is there a difference between wanting a country to home and wanting a body to home? Don't tell me I'll learn the language it takes to know. Don't call Chinese character name the Sappho of China. Don't forget Greek was once a tonal language like Chinese. It enters the body's slant. They say the mouth shapes after its language. My mouth ringing your nipple is a vowel. In my dialect every name begins with a vowel. The mouth circling itself. I circled your chest like a restless bird cribbing inside your ribs. Your heart ringing vowels out of blood. Over the phone I teach my mother the difference between singular and plural. I say, in English the word changes to match the thing. She says no, a word is the thing itself. One woman is a woman. Two, a woman, woman. Three, a woman, woman, woman. She asks, when will you learn to act the word? Like a mother's voice, I want to be beginningless. I fantasize about my mother still alive. Too soon the tones of my birth name sour like morning breath. When a word is gone, the meaning haunts the mouthful. When my body doubles over, a ghost saddles my back. The sum of my meat is mare, the sum of my language loss. So, I mean, again, in this poem we can see a lot of the stuff that I was talking about before, in addition to the other theme, which is this sort of complicated relationship with same-sex desire, same-sex relationships, and things like this, and the speaker's mother, who doesn't seem to be willing to conceptualize same-sex attraction. But again, we've got this continual sort of dividing up of the body into pieces. To translate my mother, I swab her mouth with a sword. So we've got that imagery. I mumble your name with a blood-bent tongue. I still dream of your breasts floating over my head like furred moons. So again, we've got this divided body that's being looked at in little pieces, little sort of thumbnail snaps, for the most part, rather than being seen as a whole. We've also got this fascination with language, and this poem puts linguistic play really at the center of it. The mother wants the plural of violet to be violence, the plural of woman, omen. So we've got these great sort of linguistic references, linguistic playfulness. And then again, that sort of gap between the mother's experience and the speaker's experience, because the mother tries to make the English language conform to patterns that she already knows and recognizes, whereas the speaker, she says, over the phone I teach my mother the difference between the singular and plural. I say in English the word changes to match the thing. So we've got the speaker who is, again, ensconced in this monolingualism, and is trying to make things translate in a way that they don't seem to want to on their own. So it's a really, again, very visceral collection that's thematically really unified in its sort of disunity, in its bodies that are ripped apart, languages that don't connect, etc., etc.